And our next matter is Butler's Pond, Merrymount Road, notice of intent, filed by Deirdre Hall, Quincy Department of Public Works. The proposed project has two primary components: pond dredging and gravel treatment wetland installation. The city is proposing to hydraulically dredge Butler Pond and remove approximately 3,900 cubic yards of excess sediments as accumulated within the pond basin. The goal of dredging the project is to restore areas that have been filled with sediment while also improving water quality, fish and wildlife habitat, and recreational opportunities by reducing the effects of
eutrophication
and reestablishing a variety of water depths within the pond. The resource areas: bank, land under water bodies, and waterways.
Thank you. My name is Alex Patterson, ESS Group, on behalf of Quincy DPW. So Butler's Pond is a fairly 1 1/3 acre pond located just northwest of here, bordered on 3 sides by public roads, and on the 4th side by some residential properties. My firm ESS has been working with the Friends of Butler Pond for a few years, looking at the issues that are facing the pond and potential solutions. So essentially, the main crux of the issue at Butler's Pond is that there are multiple stormwater, basically inputs, both from the northern and the southern side of the pond, from catch basins on Butler Road and Merrymount Road, that bring stormwater into the pond during rain events. But the pond has no surface outlets, so it's basically a dead end in the watershed. So anything that comes into the pond, including sediment, there's really no way for it to ever leave other than through dredging. So what has resulted from that over the years is that the volume of the pond has gradually decreased over time, and now we're at a point where there's more sediment accumulated in the pond than there is actual water. So water depths typically max out at about 3 to 4 feet, whereas sediment in the pond is up to 6 feet. So based on sediment depth sampling that was conducted by ESS, we determined the volume of sediment in the pond and designed a dredge design to remove approximately 4,000 cubic yards of sediment with the goal of basically reversing the effects of eutrophication, nutrient concentrations that have been increasing due to the sediment inputs, and improve fish and wildlife habitat and recreational opportunities. So that's one portion of the project, is to remove the sediment that has already accumulated in the pond. The other portion of the project is to install a gravel treatment wetland at the primary stormwater input north of the pond, between the pond and Butler Road, which will essentially treat stormwater before it enters the pond, and will also include a sediment forebay to allow future dredging to occur much easier without actually affecting the pond itself.
How does that work? Can you explain that last part about getting future dredging?
Yeah, so basically the gravel treatment wetland, which you can see on the plan, will be located between the pond and Butler Road. And one of the features of the gravel treatment wetland will be a sediment forebay. So it's essentially an area where sediment can settle in the basin before it enters the pond, so that, if in 10 years that forebay is full, it'll be a simple matter of just bringing in an excavator, scooping that out without having to touch the pond. As it stands now, the sediment just comes into the pond, and so we're at a situation where we need to remove the sediment from the pond. So in terms of the actual dredge work, we're proposing hydraulic dredging for a few reasons. Hydraulic dredging, in case you don't know, involves a vessel-based dredge that can operate in water depths of probably as little as 2 feet. And it uses a hose to suck the sediment from the bottom of the pond in a slurry and then pump it into what are called geotubes, which are essentially large sort of bags made of geofabric, which will be staged along the marginal road to the west side of the pond. Once the sediment enters the geotubes, it'll begin to dewater, and so the water from the sediment will run back into the pond. And then once the sediment has thoroughly dewatered and the geotubes have been filled, they'll be trucked away from the site to the final reuse location. Based on the sediment sampling that we did, we've concluded that the sediment in the pond is contaminated to the point that disposing of it at a landfill in Massachusetts is not possible. So it's likely going to have to be transported to an out-of-state landfill. That's the most feasible option for disposal at this time.
What is it contaminated with?
There's a table in the notice of intent that gives the sediment sampling results. I think the biggest things are arsenic and lead, which are actually really common in pond sediments in this part of the country because of past industrial uses. So those are both very high, but the thing that actually prevents it from being disposed in Massachusetts landfills is something called semi-volatile organic compounds, which is sort of a catch-all term that includes dozens of different chemicals with unpronounceable names. But essentially, the sum of all the SVOCs is higher than what Massachusetts allows to be placed in landfills in the state.
And that's just from years of accumulated runoff off of roads and things like that?
Yeah.
It's never industrial here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not very familiar with sort of past land uses, but for a lot of ponds that we work in New England, we see really high arsenic and lead and other metals, which typically come from either leaded gasoline from cars driving by, or lead paint, or if there were industrial facilities within the watershed that may no longer exist, that's also usually a
There was
source.
no industrial facilities there.
Yeah,
It's all housing.
so
and
probably either just geologic, naturally occurring geologic concentrations, or lead paint or leaded gasoline.
In the area where you're gonna do, a better term, you have a term for it, but the sediment retention area,
The gravel treatment wetland.
what is there now? That's not a part of the pond, it's part of the
No.
solid land? It's
Yeah,
up
so it's upland, it's in the buffer zone. There's a very narrow BW fringe along the pond right here. The gravel treatment wetland is entirely outside of that BW, so it's only in the buffer zone. It's basically just mostly herbaceous vegetation with some small trees which would need to be cleared. But it's, that's what it is right now.
So you're not gonna be removing any of the phragmites that was in there?
Well,
You're just gonna go after the silt that's on it?
yeah, I mean, the goal is to remove sediment from the pond. I know the Friends have done phragmites control at the pond in the past, and I was actually there in the spring of 2016 and to delineate the wetlands, and there actually wasn't any phragmites when I was there. So I think it sort of comes and goes. Because we're using hydraulic dredging, there's not really an opportunity to sort of scoop out phragmites like you could with an excavator. But that would be something that would sort of be an ongoing management goal to control the invasive species of the pond.
And working with the Friends of Butler Pond, you're cooperating with all the neighbors here, so this is definitely for the benefit of the neighborhood.
Yep, we've received letters in support of the project from the Friends. things. And you know, the condition of the pond now is unfortunate, because it could be a nice resource area in what is a relatively urbanized neighborhood, for fishing and boating and ice skating and that kind of thing. And it's, you know, this condition that it's in now sort of makes those recreational uses somewhat difficult.
It's entirely city-owned land.
Yes.
Is there anything alive in the pond now?
Sometimes there's ducks on the pond. I don't think there's a lot of fish, but, and there's not really a lot of plants.
There used to be turtles, I don't know whether they're gone.
But there's still no outlet for it, so it'll,
Right.
that's why you need the retention, the area to collect the sediment, because it'll continue to
Right.
do this unless you have it.
Right, I mean, if we just dredged it and didn't create the gravel treatment wetland in 30 or 50 years or maybe 10 years, we would need to dredge it again. So the purpose of the gravel treatment wetland is to try to expand the lifetime of the dredging, so that you get more value out of it.
Any questions on the board?
Is it safe to say that the city's paying for this, or do those nice contractors around there help out with this?
As far as I'm aware, it's a city-funded project.
And those contractors didn't help?
You know, nice condos out there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Middle school?
next door? Not that I'm aware.
Any comments? Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead, Dick.
Good evening. I'm Bob Berry. I'm one of the property owners by Butler Pond. Anything that improves the pond, I'm all in favor of. Could I get a little clarification about the gravel recharge area? Was that what you called it?
The
You want to show
gravel
the
treatment
plan?
wetland.
What is that going to look like? Is it going to be like a detention pond?
Essentially, yeah, I mean, that's the idea. It's gonna be, you know, sort of a depression that's created between Butler Road and the pond, where, when it's done, it'll basically just look like sort of a depression that holds water with emergent wetland plants.
Okay, and where will that be located? It'll be right across from the Dorothy Quincy house?
If you come up, I can show the plan.
Yeah, it's shown up here.
That's what I was asking. I said, it's not part of the pond now, it's just a kind of a wooded area right here.
Yep. So there's Butler Road, comes through like that, that's where the school used to be. And so the gravel treatment wetland is proposed for this area right between the pond and the road. It's really the only place along the pond.
So as the runoff comes off, that'll be a natural collecting place.
And surface runoff, and there's actually existing stormwater
Storm
infrastructure, so that will be rerouted to discharge into the gravel treatment wetland.
It'll be like a
rather
filter,
than the pond.
almost like a
Yeah.
filter for the pond.
So it'll be a
Exactly.
depression?
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think the commission knows me, but for the record, I'm the Reverend Sheldon Bennett, 43 Merrymount Road, Unit 11, across the street from the pond. And I serve as the director of the Friends of Butler Pond. And as the commission knows, we've been, since our founding about 10 years or so ago, we've been working with the city, various departments, DPW, Parks, this commission, Community Preservation Commission, ESS Group, Woodard and Curran, and neighbors, and the contractors, by the way, the developers to work towards preserving the pond, restoring the pond, preserving it, and advocating for its care and upkeep. We've been working, just to answer some of the questions that were raised. There is wildlife in the pond. There are turtles. There's approximately a dozen. I've seen, last summer I saw at one time about 9 at one time up on logs and rocks. We were reminded just how shallow that pond is during the dry season this summer. The water level dropped so low that approximately half of the bottom of the pond was fully exposed. And I know the turtles appeared to be becoming a little anxious about the situation. And they were up on logs and things looking for what's happening to our water. there are frogs, bullfrogs and various frogs. Over the course of the year, it's a visiting spot for migratory birds. And during the summer, there are herons. They're looking for frogs. They'll stand in the pond and catch a frog every now and then. So there is wildlife. I think if the pond were deeper, it would probably host fish, I would expect. Our concern is, I think many of your reports have indicated this, that because the pond is so shallow, sunlight gets to the bottom of the pond very easily. The pond warms up more rapidly than it would otherwise, promotes invasive species, Phragmites in particular. A deeper pond would help protect the pond from various invasive species. Just for the record, we worked with the DPW ESS group Curran to organize a community meeting which was held this past summer in August 17th, which the community was invited. Your firm made a presentation about this project together with Woodard and Curran that was more involved with the gravel wetland stormwater treatment feature at the north end of the pond. We had a discussion with the neighbors that attended, and there was broad support for going forward with filing for permits and so forth that resulted in this environmental notification form and so forth. So the neighborhood's in support of the project. I also want to commend the developers, particularly Edgewood Development, that's the developer for the Central Middle School project. We worked with them to upgrade their stormwater treatment system that they put in, more than they were originally planning to do, with infiltration, recharge chambers, and I think there are 5 rain gardens and tree box filters and other measures that will help protect the pond from stormwater runoff from their site, which is about 2 acres that drains into the pond one way or another, and was a major source of contributing various nutrients and various other things that were running into the pond. So we commend they've been very cooperative. They help us with our regular trash pickups. They'll have a few people come over and join with us to help pick up the trash. And we've been quite pleased with the cooperation we've had with Edgewood. So just to conclude, I think the Friends of Butler Pond are very much in support of this project. We see that this is just a jewel of a natural resource, 6 blocks from Quincy Center, a natural pond that could be, has been in the past, and it was the kind of the front yard of the Dorothy Quincy house in its early days, and it's still right across the street from the Dorothy Quincy house. And it's a real asset, not only for the neighborhood, for the whole city. So we support the project.
Mr. Bennett, I just want you to know, I wasn't picking on your complex. I was looking for the new guys in town, not your group.
Well, there's things we can be doing too.
You've been around as long as I have at the marina, so I know how old your complex is.
Any other questions? Okay. We get put up on a motion.
A motion to close and issue the order.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.